Captain Jalen Rourke stepped out of the docking tube and onto the polished marble floor of the Helion diplomatic station. The station was famous across the sector for being neutral ground, no battles, no weapons, no threats allowed. Still, he could not help scanning the room with the quiet alertness of someone who had survived more wars than he cared to remember. The hall was wide and open, decorated with banners from dozens of species. Light shimmered from crystal panels in the ceiling, shifting color depending on the emotional tone of the crowd below. It was meant to provide calm, but Jalen always found it unsettling. Artificial peace never lasted long. He was biologically 32, but his real age, his time-dilated age, was 140. Years of traveling near light speed did strange things to a man. Some people joked that he was an old soul trapped in a young body. Others whispered that he should retire and enjoy his extended youth. But Jalen never cared about any of that. He cared only about duty, and today, that duty was diplomacy. He walked toward the assembly chamber, straight-backed and steady, wearing the deep blue uniform of the United Human Fleet. Many aliens paused to watch him pass. Humans were relatively new on the galactic scene, but they already had a reputation resilient, stubborn, unpredictable, and frighteningly capable in conflict. Some admired humanity. Others feared them. Jalen didn't mind either reaction. As he entered the chamber, his eyes fell on the reason he had been summoned. Saris. She stood near a circular table surrounded by floating data screens. Her hair shimmered with faint bioluminescence, soft shades of silver and violet. Her skin held a warm glow, almost like moonlight on water. She wore the formal robe of the Lumerian Human Hybrid Council, a species known for their long lifespans. Rumor said they could live over 300 years. Saris turned as Jalen approached, and her gaze met his. Her eyes, a striking deep gold, held an ancient stillness. She looked young, perhaps mid-20s by human standards, but Jalen knew better. She was over 200 years old. Her people aged slowly, their cells renewing themselves far more efficiently than human biology allowed. For a second, they simply studied each other. Jalen, the time-lost human captain; Saris, the long-lived diplomat with centuries of experience. Their worlds could not be more different. Yet fate had pulled them into the same room. "Captain Rourke," she said, her voice smooth and calm, like a gentle tide. "It is good to finally meet you in person." "The honor's mine," Jalen replied with a polite nod. He had practiced this greeting on the shuttle ride over, but now it came out a bit stiff. Saris noticed. There was a subtle sparkle of amusement in her eyes. "I have read your reports," she continued. "You handled the Vraxan border crisis with remarkable precision." Jalen gave a careful shrug. "I try to avoid wars people don't actually need." That is not a talent many leaders share," she said softly. There was a hint of respect in her tone, real respect, not diplomatic politeness. Jalen wasn't used to that. They took their seats at the round table. Around them, holograms flickered to life, displaying maps of disputed sectors, shipping routes, and resource claims. The meeting officially began. For the next hour, they exchanged proposals, counter-proposals, and strategic ideas. Saris's intelligence was sharp and elegant. Jalen's thinking was practical and bold. Their approaches were different, but strangely complementary. Whenever a debate grew tense, Saris's calm tone spread through the room like a soothing breeze. Whenever a point needed force or clarity, Jalen delivered it with grounded confidence. Together, they slowly pushed the negotiation forward, inch by inch. During a short break, the others stepped away for refreshments, leaving Jalen and Saris alone at the table. He leaned back and exhaled. "Diplomacy is harder than combat," he muttered. Saris smiled. "You are not the first soldier to tell me that." He looked at her curiously. "You've dealt with many humans? Enough to know your people prefer action to conversation." Her smile widened. "But you are different." "Different how?" "You think before you speak. You consider long consequences. That is rare among your kind." For some reason, Jalen felt a small warmth at that compliment. "Well, when you spend half your life traveling near light speed, you get plenty of time to think." Her head tilted slightly. "Yes, The time dilation effect. Your file mentioned it. He gave a dry laugh. My file probably makes me sound more interesting than I am. It says you have lived more than a century, she said thoughtfully. And yet you look younger than I did when I finished my first college degree. Jalen raised an eyebrow. How old were you then? 62. He blinked, taken off guard. You were 62? Saris laughed gently. The sound like soft wind chimes. You forget. My people age slowly. To us, 62 is quite young. Right, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Well, that makes this a little funny. Rubbing. What does? He gave a teasing smile. If we were the same age, I'd come over every night just to hear you laugh like that. It was a light joke, nothing serious, thrown in to break the tension. He expected a polite chuckle or a dismissive wave. Instead, Saris's golden eyes held his with steady warmth. Then she smiled soft but meaningful and said, Does age even matter, Captain? Especially when time bends differently for each of us? Her words hit him harder than expected. There was no flirtation in her voice, no strange intent, no inappropriate undertone, only a sincere question shaped by centuries of seeing life in long arcs. Jalen found himself momentarily speechless. He had joked. She had answered with truth. Before he could respond, the station lights dimmed suddenly. A low alarm hummed through the chamber. Jalen straightened instantly, instinct switching into combat mode. What's happening? Saris stood as well, her expression tightening. That alarm is for external breach detection. The room's doors sealed automatically, and a voice echoed through the intercom. All delegates remain in place. Unknown vessels detected at close range. Station security is assessing the threat. Jalen's mind raced. Unknown vessels? At a diplomatic station? That's suicide. Saris shook her head. Not if they intend to take hostages. Or start an incident. The holographic map flickered with new red markers, pirate signals, dozens of them, spreading around the station like wolves circling prey. Jalen exhaled sharply. I knew this meeting was going too smoothly. Saris's golden eyes turned to him. We will need to work together if this situation worsens. Agreed. For the first time, their alliance was not about politics. It was about survival. The alarm stopped, replaced by a harsher, more urgent voice. All personnel prepare for potential evacuation. Pirate forces detected near docking ports. Repeat. Prepare for evacuation. Saris took a steadying breath. Captain, if we are separated, follow the blue evacuation corridors. They lead to the escape hangar. Captain, we're not getting separated, Jalen said firmly. He stepped closer to her, lowering his voice. I've protected diplomats in war zones before. I'm not letting anything happen to you. Her eyes softened. You do not even know me. Maybe not, Jalen admitted, but I know enough. Saris's smile returned, faint but real. Humans. Always surprising. The chamber shuddered suddenly. Distant explosions echoed through the station's corridors. Jalen glanced toward the sealed door. We need to move. Saris nodded. Follow me. As the emergency panels slid open, revealing the evacuation route. Jalen and Saris stepped into the dimly lit hallway, side by side. Behind them, the peaceful diplomatic meeting dissolved into chaos. Ahead of them, danger was closing in. And between them, a strange new bond had begun, sparked by a joke, strengthened by crisis, and written across the shifting currents of time. The emergency lights cast a red glow along the station's corridors. Jalen Rourke moved swiftly, keeping his eyes on every corner, every doorway. Behind him, Saris followed closely, her bioluminescent hair faintly glowing, guiding them through the dim passageways. The calm dignity she had displayed at the table was gone, replaced by the sharp focus of someone who had survived centuries and never underestimated danger. Do you always run through corridors like this? She asked, her voice low but steady. Only when pirates are trying to capture diplomats, Jalen replied, checking a doorway for potential threats. Otherwise, I prefer leisurely strolls. She gave a small smile, but there was no humor in her eyes. I see. Your kind handles stress differently. Jalen glanced at her. We also handle things quickly. We improvise. The first sounds of battle echoed faintly from the docking bays, explosions, alarms, and mechanical screeches as the station's defense drones tried to intercept the intruders. Jalen's pulse quickened, but his mind stayed sharp. He had faced threats before, but never in the confined halls of a diplomatic station. Collateral damage would be unavoidable if things went wrong. The emergency corridor ended in a junction. Two hallways led outward, one to the main hangar, the other to storage levels where escape pods were kept. Jalen stopped. Hangar is likely overrun, he said. Storage pods are less secure but quieter. We take the pods. Undertender, Saris nodded. Agreed. The pirates may not expect anyone to leave that way. They moved together, silent and cautious. Jalen's hand hovered near the blaster at his side, though the weapon had been mostly ceremonial during diplomatic missions. Saris, for her part, extended her hand slightly, her fingers tracing faint patterns in the air. The alien-human hybrid biology of her people allowed her to sense vibrations, detect electronic signals, and even anticipate movements before they happened. Jalen had seen some of this in her dossier, but witnessing it in action was extraordinary. A small drone rounded the corner ahead, hovering near a junction. Its lights blinked red, the kind of pirate reconnaissance drones Jalen had studied in military briefings. Cover me, he whispered to Saris. She didn't hesitate. She raised a hand, and a faint wave of energy pulsed outward. The drone's circuits sparked and shorted. It fell to the ground with a soft crash. Motionless. Impressive, Jalen muttered, though he tried not to sound amazed. It is simple. Once you understand their design, she replied, her tone calm, almost casual. I am trained to neutralize threats without unnecessary damage. Jalen smirked. Sounds like my kind of partner. They continued down the hall, the distant echoes of pirate activity growing louder. Jalen felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, not just for his own survival, but for Saris's. She represented centuries of diplomacy, centuries of knowledge. Losing her would not just be personal, it could destabilize alliances across the galaxy. They reached the storage levels, which were largely empty, except for crates of supplies and a few inactive maintenance robots. Escape pods lined the walls, sealed and ready for emergency use. Jalen activated the nearest pod's control panel. A soft green light confirmed that it was operational. Pods ready. We move fast, or the pirates will catch up. Saris's eyes flickered over the controls. These pods are designed for one person, but... She paused, a faint grin appearing. We will make it work. He raised an eyebrow. Good to know we're improvising together. She ignored the tease, stepping into the pod and scanning the interior. You may need to override manual settings. I can help, Jalen nodded. Go ahead. Together, they worked quickly. Jalen input commands while Saris guided him, adjusting the pod's systems for 2 passengers. In minutes, the pod's controls were optimized, and the small craft glowed softly, ready to launch. Outside the storage levels, the sounds of battle intensified. The station shook from distant explosions. Jalen glanced at Saris. Ready? She nodded, her calm demeanor returning. Lead the way. The launch sequence initiated. The pod detached from the storage bay and moved swiftly through the station's empty corridors. The red emergency lights flickered as alarms blared, warning all personnel to evacuate. Jalen guided the pod along a secondary route, avoiding the main battle areas. Saris scanned for threats using her biosensory abilities. Every hallway, every junction, was checked before they proceeded. Pirates on your left, she said, her voice steady. 3 drones, moving in formation. Got it. Jalen adjusted the pod's trajectory, skimming along the walls and using small maintenance shafts as cover. Do this enough times, and you start seeing their patterns. Saris raised an eyebrow. Humans, fearless. Careful, Jalen said. Not fearless, just stubborn. They moved with practiced efficiency. Despite the chaos around them, a rhythm emerged. Jalen navigating, Saris anticipating. Each step forward was a small victory. Finally, the pod reached the station's outer airlock. The massive doors separated the interior from the vacuum of space. Jalen activated the final sequence. The pod's engines powered up, and the craft detached, sliding smoothly into open space. Outside, the station's battle raged below. Pirate vessels swarmed the docking area, trying to intercept any escaping craft. The stars stretched endlessly beyond them, calm and infinite. Jalen allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. We're not out of danger yet, but we're free for now. Saris studied the battlefield below. They expected easy targets. They underestimated human resilience. Jalen chuckled softly. Underestimating humans is a universal mistake. She turned to him, her golden eyes reflecting distant stars. And yet, you survive. That is admirable. Jalen felt a strange warmth at her words. You make it sound like an observation from a history book. History is not just about the past, she said softly. It is also about understanding who survives, and why. They plotted a course to a nearby barren moon. It was uninhabited, but had caves that could provide temporary shelter. The goal was simple: hide, regroup, and find a way to contact the station's reinforcements. As they approached the moon, Jalen broke the silence. I didn't expect a diplomatic mission to turn into a survival exercise. Saris smiled faintly. Nor did I. Perhaps the universe enjoys irony. Jalen shook his head. If it enjoys irony, it has a cruel sense of humor. The pod landed on the moon's rocky surface. Dust and small stones scattered as the craft settled. Jalen opened the hatch, and they stepped onto the barren terrain. The red light of the emergency panels faded, replaced by the pale glow of the moon's surface. Safe enough, he muttered, scanning the horizon. For now. Saris knelt, touching the ground lightly. This world is old. I can feel it. The layers of time beneath the rocks. She stood and looked at him. You, however, carry time within you differently. Jalen raised an eyebrow. Care to explain? You age differently, she said. Your body is young, yet your experience spans decades longer than mine. It is fascinating. He felt a small grin form. I get that a lot. People call me the man out of time. And yet, she added, you are very much alive, very much human. The way she said it made him pause. He didn't expect her observation to touch him so deeply. Somehow, in the middle of chaos, in a strange, uninhabited moon, her words grounded him. The first night on the moon was quiet. They built a temporary shelter in one of the caves. Jalen maintained security routines, checking sensors and ensuring no stray pirate drones were nearby. Saris studied the cave walls, tracing faint alien markings left by civilizations long gone. This place has history, she said. Even barren worlds remember those who passed before. Jalen nodded. Humans remember too. That's part of why we fight. Saris looked at him, her golden eyes thoughtful. You fight not just for yourself, but for what comes after. That is rare. They shared a quiet moment of understanding. No words about age, species, or differences, just two beings from different worlds, finding a shared rhythm in survival. As the pale light of the nearby star filtered into the cave, Jalen allowed himself to relax. You know, he said lightly. If we were the same age, Saris looked at him with a small, knowing smile. I already know. You would come over every night. He blinked, surprised. Yes, probably. And yet, she said softly, we are exactly the right age for this moment. Jalen couldn't help but grin. Somehow, in the middle of a crisis, in a cave on a distant moon, that felt enough. Outside, the universe stretched endlessly, full of danger and opportunity. And for the first time that day, Jalen felt a quiet certainty. Humanity, with its courage and stubbornness, had once again survived, and perhaps thrived even in partnership with those who seemed different in every way. Tomorrow, they would face the station's pirates again. But tonight, they rested. Together, human and hybrid, at the edge of time. The moon was silent, a vast expanse of gray rocks and jagged cliffs stretching in every direction. Jalen, Rourke, and Saris had spent the night in the shelter they carved out of a natural cave. The cold, pale light of the nearby star filtered through the narrow entrance, casting long shadows on the walls. The outside world, the battle-scarred station, the swarming pirate vessels seemed distant, almost unreal, but neither of them relaxed completely. Danger could arrive at any moment. Jalen was the first to rise. He checked the pod's sensors again, making sure no rogue ships or stray drones had followed them. Everything appeared calm. He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his short, dark hair. Even after decades of facing death and chaos, the tension never fully left him. That was the human way. Always alert, always ready. Saris stirred next to him, her bioluminescent hair glowing faintly in the dim light. She had been meditating, as was her custom when facing uncertainty. Her long life had taught her the value of patience, of observing before acting. "Morning," Jalen said softly, not wanting to break her concentration too harshly. "Good morning," Saris replied, opening her golden eyes. There was calmness in them, yet a quiet intensity. "You slept well?" "Enough," he said with a small grin. "Not that there's much room for comfort on a moon like this." She stood and stretched gracefully. "Comfort is relative. Safety, that is the priority now." Jalen nodded, though he allowed himself a small laugh. "You make it sound like I'm the one who needs reminding." "You do not need reminding," Saris said. "But humans act first, think later. It is admirable, but sometimes dangerous." He shrugged. "We call it courage, or stubbornness. Sometimes both." After a quick breakfast of rationed supplies, they prepared to explore the moon's surface. Their goal was simple: find a secure location to set up a long-range transmitter. They needed to contact the fleet and inform them of the pirate threat. Without it, the pirates could continue attacking stations freely, and countless lives would be at risk. Jalen led the way, moving carefully over uneven rocks. Saris followed, her senses extended, feeling the vibrations of the terrain. Her species-enhanced perception made her a perfect partner in exploration. She could detect slight movements, faint electronic signals, and even changes in the magnetic fields caused by hidden structures beneath the moon's surface. After nearly an hour of careful walking, Saris stopped abruptly. Her hand hovered above the ground, sensing something Jalen could not. "What is it?" he asked. "Not what. Who," she replied softly. "There is an echo here. A memory, perhaps, of beings long gone. They left traces. The ground remembers." Jalen frowned, skeptical but curious. "Memory in the rocks? Sounds like a fairy tale." Saris shook her head. "Not fairy tale. Reality. This moon is old. It has seen civilizations rise and fall. If you know how to listen, it will speak." She reached down and placed her hand on the jagged surface. Light shimmered faintly under her fingers, illuminating subtle patterns that Jalen could not see. The cave of her senses revealed images in his mind, shapes of ancient cities, long-forgotten technology, even glimpses of battles fought centuries before. Jalen felt a chill. You can actually see it?" "I can feel it," Saris said. "I am connected to this world. It tells me stories." The thought unsettled him, yet he could not look away. For a moment, he wondered if humans could ever reach this level of perception. Perhaps not. But he admired her. Centuries of life and learning had shaped her into someone extraordinary, and yet, despite her wisdom, she had trusted him. That, he realized, mattered more than any ability to read the past. They followed the faint signals toward a cluster of caves in the cliffside. The largest cave had an entrance wide enough to allow their pod inside. Jalen approached cautiously, scanning the entrance for any signs of life. Nothing moved. Saris stepped forward, her hand brushing the rock surface. "It is safe," she said. "At least for now." Inside, the cave was larger than it appeared from the outside. The walls were covered with smooth, dark stone, carved naturally over eons. Small crevices allowed light to enter, creating a delicate pattern of shadows. It was quiet, so quiet that Jalen could hear his own heartbeat. "This will work," he said finally. "We can set up the transmitter here." "Out of sight? Out of reach," Saris nodded, scanning the walls for energy readings. "There is residual power here," she said. "Perhaps from the civilizations that once lived. We can use it to amplify your signal." Jalen whistled softly. "Of course. Nothing is ever easy with you. I make it work," she replied with a faint smile. The next few hours were spent in preparation. Jalen set up a portable transmitter, modifying the design to use the residual energy Saris detected. She assisted, linking her biosensory systems to stabilize the field. It was slow work, requiring precision and patience. As they labored, conversation flowed naturally, bridging the differences between them. "You must have seen so much," Jalen said, glancing at her. 200 years. What is that like?" Saris paused, considering. "It is long enough to see patterns, to learn patience, to watch civilizations rise and fall. But not long enough to know everything. Time stretches, but it does not make one wise automatically." Jalen nodded slowly. "I know what you mean. I have lived over a century, but traveling near light speed. You see people age, die, and worlds change while you remain the same. It makes you wonder what matters." Saris tilted her head. "Perhaps what matters is connection. Understanding. Not the length of time, but how you spend it." Jalen looked at her, her words sinking deep. There was a truth in them that cut through the chaos of battle, the uncertainty of survival, and the vast distance between their species. And he realized age, time, and even species meant little when two beings understood each other. By nightfall, the transmitter was operational. A soft hum filled the cave as the signal sent a clear distress message to the fleet. Jalen checked the data feed. Message sent. They should respond within the hour. Saris looked out from the cave entrance, the stars above stretching infinitely. "You humans are persistent, and hybrid humans are extraordinary," he replied. "I don't know how you do half the things you do." "Tay, you adapt," she said simply. "I watch, I learn, I adapt. You do the same. That is why we survive." Jalen chuckled softly. "You make it sound easy." "It is not easy," she said. "It is necessary." As they prepared to rest for the night, a strange phenomenon occurred. The cave walls began to shimmer faintly, reacting to Saris's presence. Patterns of light appeared, echoing images of past life, cities, people, even conflicts, long gone. It was mesmerizing. "Does this happen often?" Jalen asked, awed. "Only when the moon remembers," Saris said. "And when someone listens carefully enough." Jalen walked closer, placing a hand on the wall. A surge of images and sensations passed through him, flashes of alien technology, moments of peace, moments of struggle. It was overwhelming, but beautiful. "You can see this too?" he asked. "I can feel it," Saris replied. "You experience it differently because you are human. Humans see possibility, not only the past. That is your strength." Jalen smiled faintly. "Possibility? Huh? I like that." They stood in silence, letting the moon share its stories with them. For a brief moment, there was no danger, no chaos, no pirates. Only the quiet wisdom of an ancient world, and two beings from different times, different species, finding common ground. Finally, they settled near the cave entrance, watching the stars stretch across the sky. Jalen leaned back, tired but calm. "You know," he said quietly, "if we were the same age." Saris turned to him with a small, knowing smile. "I already know what you would say." He chuckled softly. "And you're right. I would come over every night." Her golden eyes met his, steady and calm. "And yet," she said softly, We are exactly the right age for this moment. Jalen felt a quiet certainty wash over him. In the middle of danger, on a barren moon, far from home and war, it was enough. Tomorrow, the universe would demand more courage, more action. But tonight, for the first time in a long while, he felt connected with Ceres, with the moon, with time itself. They were different, yet they were alike. And that, Jalen realized, might just be enough to survive anything the galaxy could throw at them. The moon's surface was quiet under the pale light of the distant star. The wind, thin and cold, whistled through jagged rock formations. Jalen Rourke adjusted the sensor array near the cave entrance, while Ceres monitored the long-range transmitter they had set up the day before. "Signal's strong," Ceres said, her golden eyes scanning the display. "The fleet should receive our message soon." Jalen nodded, checking the portable weapons and tools they had salvaged from the station's storage pods. "Good. Once they respond, we can expect reinforcements. Hopefully before the pirates decide to pay us a visit here." Ceres's eyes narrowed slightly. "I would not rely on hope alone. They are skilled and persistent." Jalen smirked. "Then we rely on stubbornness, and humans excel at that." Ceres gave a faint smile. "Yes. That I have noticed." Hours passed. They maintained quiet vigilance, the soft hum of the transmitter, the only sound breaking the moon's eerie silence. Jalen had grown used to calm before chaos. But something in the air tonight felt different. "Captain," Ceres said suddenly, tension threading her voice. "They are coming." Jalen stiffened. He activated the cave's emergency sensors, watching as multiple blips appeared on the monitor pirate vessels approaching the moon, following their escape pods' trace signals. They were careful, calculated, and fast. "Figures," Jalen muttered. "Nothing is ever easy." Ceres's fingers traced patterns in the air, sending subtle pulses into the transmitter. "We can use the cave's natural magnetic fields to create a defensive barrier. It will confuse their targeting systems." Jalen's eyes lit up. "Now that's what I call an advantage. Let's do it." The cave's interior hummed as Ceres directed energy currents subtly through the rock. The walls glimmered faintly, amplifying the effect. Jalen checked the sensors. Pirate targeting systems were already having trouble locking onto the cave. "Good," he said. "Let's see if they can hit something they can't see." Ceres nodded. "We are small, but cunning. That is human strength. And hybrid strength." On hybrid strength, the pirate fleet descended toward the moon, their ships sleek, armed, and ready. Jalen studied their movement patterns, noting gaps and vulnerabilities. "They'll try to split into two groups," he observed. "One to distract, one to land troops." Ceres tilted her head, sensing the subtle vibrations in the rocks. "Yes. But they will not anticipate that we can manipulate the terrain. This cave is more than a hiding place, it is a trap." Jalen grinned. "Perfect. Nothing human loves more than a trap." The first group of pirate ships approached the landing zone. Jalen activated a series of small, automated drones hidden among the rocks. They were simple devices, but equipped with strobe lights and electromagnetic pulses. As the pirates moved closer, the drones emitted sudden flashes, disorienting their sensors. "What was that?" One pirate voice crackled over open channels. "Why are our targeting systems failing?" "Why?" Jalen muttered to himself, amused. "Because humans adapt." Ceres extended her hands, her fingers moving in complex patterns. She amplified the electromagnetic pulses through the cave walls, creating interference that made the pirate ships wobble. "They will not expect the terrain to fight back," she said. Jalen laughed quietly. "Terrain fights back. Now that's something the Vraxen would never guess." The pirates began to land troops near the cave entrance. Jalen watched their movements, predicting every step. "They're fast," he muttered. "But not fast enough." Ceres touched the rock floor lightly. Energy waves pulsed outward, subtly manipulating the moon's magnetic field. The small landers jolted unexpectedly, throwing the troops off balance. "Now, Captain," Saris said. Jalen activated the drones, sending them skimming between the rocks. They emitted EMP bursts, disabling pirate equipment and forcing the attackers to scramble for cover. Jalen moved with precision, using hand signals to guide Saris. She responded instantly, amplifying the effects and creating confusion among the enemy ranks. One pirate shouted, "What kind of humans are these?" Jalen smirked. "The kind that survive anything." Hours passed. The pirates tried repeatedly to advance, but every attempt was met with clever human tactics and hybrid biotech brilliance. They had underestimated their opponents. Every drone, every pulse, every clever use of the terrain frustrated the attackers. Saris looked at Jalen, her expression one of admiration. "You humans are reckless," she said. "But effective. And you're amazing," Jalen replied. "Centuries of experience, and you still surprise me." Her golden eyes softened. "Perhaps centuries only matter if they are used wisely. I have learned to anticipate, to adapt, to survive. Like you." Jalen felt a surge of pride, not just in himself, but in humanity. Here they were outnumbered, outgunned, and still standing. His stubbornness, creativity, and refusal to give up were traits humans carried across time, across space, and across every challenge. By nightfall, the pirate fleet had retreated, heavily frustrated and defeated. Some ships fled, some were disabled, and some simply gave up. The message was clear. Humans, aided by hybrid allies, were not to be underestimated. Jalen surveyed the battlefield, his chest swelling with quiet satisfaction. "They're gone. For now." Saris stepped beside him, scanning the horizon. "Your kind does not quit easily. That is admirable." Jalen laughed softly. "We don't know how to quit. It's kind of our thing." "You are impressive," she said softly, looking at him. "Not just in combat, in spirit, in determination, in connection." Jalen felt a warmth he had not expected. It was not just survival. It was recognition, respect, and perhaps understanding. The night on the moon was silent, except for the occasional crack of shifting rocks and distant wind. Jalen and Saris settled near the cave entrance, exhausted but victorious. "You know," Jalen said quietly, "humans often get called reckless. But sometimes it works." Saris tilted her head. "Sometimes it works because humans are bold. Because you act when others hesitate. Because you do not wait for the perfect moment, you create it." Jalen grinned faintly. "I like that. Makes me feel heroic." "You are heroic," Saris said softly. "And not just because of your actions. Because you face challenges with heart. You do not let fear dictate your choices. That is the essence of humanity." He felt a quiet pride at her words. Humanity, so often underestimated in the galaxy, had once again proven itself. Not just in technology, not just in weapons, but in courage, adaptability, and spirit. They stayed awake, talking quietly under the stars. Jalen recounted stories of human victories, small and large. Saris shared memories of her long life, the lessons learned, the mistakes, the triumphs. Each story, each moment, drew them closer. They were two beings from vastly different times and species, yet finding common ground in understanding and respect. "I still remember your words from the station," Jalen said softly. "Does age matter?" "You were right. It doesn't." "Not really." Saris's golden eyes met his. "It matters only if we let it. What matters is what we do, how we survive, how we connect. And right now, we are exactly the right age for this moment. This, I create potable Dodd, in the 2446, Jalen chuckled softly. "You make it sound easy. But it's true." I've lived decades longer than most humans, and yet, I've never felt more present. Saris smiled faintly. Then perhaps presence, not time, is the measure of life. The victory on the moon was more than tactical, it was symbolic. Humanity, in Jalen's form, had stood tall against overwhelming odds. They had used intellect, courage, and sheer determination to survive and to thrive. The hybrid abilities of Saris had complemented human ingenuity perfectly, and in that quiet moment, under the alien stars, Jalen realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not just in survival, it was in courage, creativity, stubbornness, and the willingness to connect across differences. Tomorrow, there would be new challenges. Pirates could regroup. The fleet might be delayed. The galaxy could still throw impossible odds at them. But tonight, humanity had stood tall, and Jalen knew that, with allies like Saris, they could face anything. As they settled down for rest, Jalen felt a quiet contentment. The battle was won, but the journey was far from over. Still, with courage, adaptability, and the bond he shared with Saris, he was confident. They were different species. They were different ages. They came from different worlds. And yet, they were united in survival, in strategy, and in spirit. The galaxy had underestimated humans again. And once more, it would learn their worth. The morning light spilled across the barren moon, bathing the rocky cliffs in a soft silver glow. Jalen, Rourke, and Saris emerged from the cave, their eyes scanning the horizon. The pirate fleet had vanished during the night, likely retreating to regroup. The silence felt heavy but welcome, a rare moment of calm in the galaxy that never stopped moving. "We should move closer to the transmitter," Saris said, her tone calm but alert. "The fleet may respond soon. We must be ready to guide them." Jalen adjusted the portable control panel, checking the transmitter's energy levels. "Signal is steady. The fleet should detect us within the hour." Saris nodded, her golden eyes reflecting the distant stars. "Good, but we cannot rely solely on rescue. We must be ready to defend ourselves if they arrive early." Jalen smiled faintly. "Of course. Humans don't wait for miracles. We make them happen." Her smile was faint but genuine. "That is why I respect your kind." The hours passed slowly. Jalen and Saris maintained a quiet vigilance, scanning the skies and the terrain below. They had established a rhythm. Jalen checked the systems, ensuring the transmitter remained stable, while Saris monitored the subtle shifts in the moon's energy fields. Together, they formed a seamless team, human intuition and hybrid perception complementing each other perfectly. "You know," Jalen said after a moment, breaking the silence, "I've faced a lot of impossible situations in my life. But this feels different." "How so?" Saris asked, tilting her head. "Because it's not just about surviving," he explained. "It's about being part of something bigger. About proving that humans, we can stand tall, even when everything seems against us. And having someone like you by my side, it makes it feel possible." Saris studied him, her expression thoughtful. "You humans are extraordinary. You act, even when odds are against you. You do not wait for perfect conditions. That is why you survive." Jalen chuckled softly. "And stubbornness. Never forget stubbornness." Saris's smile widened slightly. "Yes. That too." A faint shimmer appeared on the horizon ships. The fleet had arrived. Their silhouettes were distant, but unmistakable. Jalen felt a surge of relief and pride. Humanity had sent reinforcements, and together they would push back the pirates completely. "About time," he muttered, adjusting the pod's defensive shields. "Let's show them what humans can do." Saris's hands traced patterns in the air, amplifying the electromagnetic interference around the cave. "They will not land easily," she said. "And those who try will face unexpected obstacles." Jalen's grin widened. "Good. Let's give them a lesson they'll never forget." The pirate fleet attempted to approach the moon, but the combined effects of Saris's energy manipulation and the clever placement of automated drones disrupted their systems. Some ships wobbled unexpectedly, while others were forced to retreat. It was a display of strategy, intelligence, and adaptability, exactly what humans excelled at. From the cave entrance, Jalen watched, marveling at the coordinated chaos. Pirates, frustrated and confused, could not understand why their superior technology was failing. "They don't expect humans to fight smart," Jalen said quietly. "We're usually underestimated." Saris nodded. "And yet, your kind has survived. That is the proof." As the first group of pirates tried to land troops, the human fleet arrived in formation. Jalen guided the ships through the moon's natural obstacles, coordinating with the fleet's AI to trap the remaining pirates. Each maneuver highlighted human ingenuity and determination, combined with Saris's hybrid abilities. By midday, the pirate forces had been completely defeated. Ships retreated, leaving the moon quiet once more. Jalen allowed himself a deep breath, the tension finally easing. "We did it," he said softly, almost in disbelief. Saris nodded, her expression serene. "Yes. Together, we did." The fleet's commander contacted them via long-range transmission. "Captain Rourke, your actions on this moon have prevented a disaster. The pirate fleet has been neutralized. You and your companion will be commended. Prepare to return to the station for debriefing." Jalen glanced at Saris. "Looks like our vacation is over." She smiled faintly. "Not exactly a vacation, Captain. But yes, it is time to return." They prepared their pod for the journey back to the station. Jalen checked the controls one last time. Saris traced patterns over the navigation panels, ensuring they avoided debris and potential hazards. "Ready?" Jalen asked. "Always," she replied. The pod launched smoothly into space, the stars stretching endlessly around them. For a moment, there was no urgency, no danger, just the vastness of space and two beings traveling together. As they approached the station, Jalen felt a sense of accomplishment. Humanity had proven itself again, not through brute force alone, but through courage, adaptability, and intellect. Saris's presence had made all the difference, a reminder that alliances across species and time could accomplish what no single force could achieve alone. "You know," Jalen said quietly, "I never thought I'd feel this proud. Not just of myself, but of humans in general." Saris looked at him, her golden eyes reflecting the distant light. "You should. You are extraordinary. Not because of age, or technology, or strength, but because of who you are. Courageous, adaptable, and willing to act when others hesitate." Jalen chuckled softly. "And stubborn." "Yes," she said, "and stubborn." Back at the station, the two were greeted as heroes. Diplomats, military personnel, and civilians alike praised their courage and ingenuity. The victory was not just tactical, it was symbolic. Humanity had stood tall once more, proving its value in a galaxy that often underestimated it. During the debriefing, Jalen and Saris recounted their experience calmly, focusing on strategy and collaboration. Yet beneath the words, a bond had formed, one forged in survival, in mutual respect, and in shared understanding across species and time. When the meeting ended, they were left alone in a quiet corridor. Jalen turned to Saris. "You know," he said softly, echoing words from weeks before, "if we were the same age." Saris looked at him, her golden eyes steady and warm. "I know, you would come over every night." He smiled, a quiet, genuine expression. "And you would smile at me like that, wouldn't you?" She did. "Perhaps, but age is irrelevant. Not to us. Not when time is measured by connection, courage, and shared experience." Jalen nodded. He realized then that she was right. Age, species, or origin did not define worth. Actions, choices, and heart did. Humanity, with all its flaws and stubbornness, had once again proven it. The stars outside stretched endlessly, infinite, and eternal. Jalen and Sarah stood together, feeling a sense of calm and purpose. They had survived, adapted, and thrived. They had turned the impossible into reality, and in that moment, the universe seemed to acknowledge it. "Captain," Sarah said softly, "you have done more than survive. You have inspired. Humanity, in you, stands tall." Jalen chuckled. "I'm just a man doing what humans do best." She smiled faintly. "And that is exactly why it matters." For a moment, they simply stood there, side by side. No words were necessary. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, but also full of potential. Humanity had proven itself not just through strength or technology, but through courage, adaptability, and the willingness to act when all seemed lost. Jalen looked at Saris, feeling a quiet certainty. They had faced impossible odds and won. They had survived the pirate fleet, mastered the moon's challenges, and safeguarded countless lives. And in doing so, they had forged a bond that transcended time, species, and age. "Ready for the next adventure?" he asked with a grin. Saris's golden eyes sparkled. "Always." Together, they turned toward the stars, ready for whatever the galaxy would throw at them next. Humanity had once again proven itself resilient, resourceful, and heroic. And with allies like Saris, nothing could stand in their way. The universe was vast, dangerous, beautiful, and humanity, in its courage and ingenuity, was ready to face it all. The story closed on that quiet triumph. Two beings from different worlds, different ages, but united in spirit. A testament to the power of courage, collaboration, and connection. Humanity had survived. Humanity had thrived. And humanity, as always, had stood tall.